This is Face to Face with John Ralston.
Welcome back across Nevada to Face to Face. Gay rights advocates are employing a new strategy in their effort to obtain the right to marry. They're going to federal court, and the plaintiffs are 8 couples from Nevada. In a little while, we'll hear from the Lambda legal attorney who will be making the equal protection claim. But first, the lead plaintiffs in the federal lawsuit, Carson City residents Beverly Sevcik and Mary Barinovich. They say they've been together for 40 years, raised 3 children, and have 4 grandchildren. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
How dare, after 40 years, anyone would think it's okay for you to marry? It's outrageous, right? I mean, it's almost comical. Tell me why, after 40 years, you want to get married?
Because we have been together 40 years, we would like to honor the commitment to each other and our love to each other through marriage, the same as what other people get to do when they love somebody.
Has this been something that's come up in your relationship through the years, that you feel like second-class citizens,
Yes.
that you really wanted to get married? I mean, have you talked about that through how far back does it go that you've talked about this?
Oh, I don't even recall how far back, but it's a part of a well-formed, well-loved relationship. And I think most anybody that has that would want to marry.
Do you feel like you've been missing? Something's been missing because you haven't been married?
I feel like we've been treated like second-class citizens, and we would be treated as first-class citizens if we had the right to marry.
Well, let me read something from the lawsuit. The federal lawsuit was filed today about your relationship. When Beverly and Mary committed their lives to each other on October 2nd, 1971, and brought rings to signify their relationship, they were careful not to purchase matching rings for fear of having their relationship discovered. That is awful, isn't it?
Yes, it is awful.
What did that feel like? I mean, marriage is supposed to be a beautiful, greatest day of your life. What did it feel like having to do that?
It's not a good feeling. It's a hurtful thing. And you just kind of go with the flow and you learn to live with it. But I think in this day and age, I'd sure like to see it changed.
You know, you both are old enough to have lived through the civil rights era.
Yes.
And a lot of people think there's a comparison between what happened for blacks back in the 1960s and separate but equal, and what has happened, what is going on now. Do you agree with that comparison?
Absolutely. I was in the Deep South during the civil rights movement. I saw black people having to step off the curb into the gutter of the street when a white person passed, and in some ways gays have been treated the same way.
You feel the same way?
I do.
The lawsuit is based on an equal protection argument, as you know, and that the domestic partnership law, which you both know about, that was passed in Nevada, which is, by the way, a remarkable achievement for the state in which we live. And it's essentially separate but unequal. Here's what it says. Same-sex couples have been able to receive many of the same benefits and privileges of marriage, but not the status itself. However, since the legislature passed comprehensive domestic partnership benefits over the veto of then-Governor Jim Gibbons in 2009. So they stepped pretty close to it, but not quite giving you the full status that you want. Is that how you feel about it?
That's very true.
Yes.
And when domestic partnership was passed, and I remember that, and I remember the lobbying that went on and how difficult it was, and you had to get some fairly conservative Republicans to vote for domestic partnership. When that was passed, was it a joyous moment for you? Did you think, okay, one more step? How did you feel about it?
I felt like it was a step forward, and I think marriage is going to be the final step for all of us.
Well, I really appreciate your willingness to come on the program on the day that this lawsuit was filed. I wish you the best of luck, and congratulations on 40 years together. It's a remarkable achievement.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll talk to a Lambda legal attorney about the ins and outs of the legalities of this lawsuit and why she's suing our poor governor. Back in a moment. Welcome back across Nevada to Face to Face. We're talking about the federal lawsuit filed by Lambda Legal on behalf of 8 couples against the state of Nevada. Join me now, one of the attorneys, Shelby Day. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us, John.
Why Nevada?
Well, in Nevada, it's particularly clear that excluding same-sex couples from marriage is wholly irrational. The state of Nevada, as you pointed out in the earlier segment with Mary and Beverly, has already enacted a law and has a public policy where it affords virtually all the same rights and benefits to same-sex couples, holds them responsible in the same ways that it does spouses, but it excludes them from the honor designation of marriage.
So, as I said, they've stepped up. Essentially, it's because Nevada's gone almost all the way to marriage, but not quite gotten there. Do you think that domestic partnerships makes it a good legal case to say, why do that? As you say, irrational. What's the legal argument, though?
Well, Lambda Legal's been working for a long time on marriage equality. It's an issue that's very important to us. In Nevada, it's particularly clear that the government has created a second-class status. We're not attacking the domestic partnership law. What we're attacking is the government's consigning same-sex couples to a second-class status and excluding them from the honor designation of marriage. Marriage has a very distinct and universally understood meaning. It's a recognition of love and family and commitment that is like none other. And these couples, despite having been with our lead couples together for over 4 decades, are being excluded from marriage.
Yeah, it actually seems ironic to me that they, by doing something that's good for gay couples, that is domestic partnerships, they've actually codified into law the second-class citizenship, essentially, is what you're saying. Do I have that close?
Well, we believe that same-sex couples throughout the United States are entitled to the right to marry. Here, and we have lawsuits in other states as well, as do some of our sister organizations. But here, it's particularly clear that the government has no rational reason for excluding same-sex couples from marriage. We believe that that's true in all states, but in Nevada it's particularly clear. There's no rational or legitimate reason for the government to exclude same-sex couples from marriage when it's already recognized that they're deserving of the same rights and benefits as married couples.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's crazy too. I'm just trying to get through the legal arguments. Of course, the case that got the most attention is Prop 8 in California, but unlike the case there, your case does not include a due process claim for the right to marry. And let me show you what one of your colleagues had to say. We certainly believe that the fundamental right to marry includes same-sex couples, but the court doesn't need to answer that question to rule for the plaintiffs here. And we're convinced that our equal protection claim is so clearly correct that we want to keep the focus on that claim.
And that's absolutely right, and that's why I keep coming back to Nevada. It's clear, the irrationality is very clear, that the government has no rational or legitimate reason for denying same-sex couples the honor designation of marriage. There's no reason other than discrimination, no rational or legitimate reason that would stand under the U.S. Constitution's right to equal protection under the law.
Is this the first step? I saw somewhere where your organization called this a strategic move. Is this the first step in an attempt to get this up the court system? And is Nevada the right place to start to do that?
Well, we believe that Nevada is the right place to start. As if you've read the complaint, as you can tell, we have 8 wonderful couples that represent a variety of situations. We have mothers and fathers, grandmothers in the case of Mary and Beverly. We have people who are building families together, and this is an issue that affects their life directly.
But is the end game, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we're limited on time, but is the end game getting this to the U.S. Supreme Court?
If that's what it takes, then we absolutely are committed to that.
It will take that.
Well, certainly, certainly the district court will have to decide that, and then the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. This case builds on the Perry case and on other cases
that are
currently...
That's the California case.
Yes, other cases that are in the pipeline. But if it takes taking this case to the U.S. Supreme Court to... All right.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. We're out of time. I really appreciate your willingness to come on the program. We're going to follow this very, very closely.
Thank you.
Thank you.